Okay, in this lecture we're going to learn about the distribution of income. When the firm start earning money, positive net income, and their growth starts slowing down, the net income's coming into the company, then the company should think about or consider about distributing the income back to its investors or shareholders, right? A good example of this is Apple, where they hold a lot of cash in their hand and they don't know what to do with their investment yet. Then the investors will start pressuring them to give the cash back to the investors. So that's the idea of the distribution of income. And we're going to learn about this, just a simple model which is called the pure residual dividend model, right? Distribution model, which basically says that distribution is equal to the net income minus the target equity ratio. So this is basically the proportion of equity financings, is the target equity ratio, times the total capital budget. So distribution could be in the forms of the cash dividend back to the shareholders and or stock repurchase. So it could do both cash dividend and stock repurchase, or cash dividend only, or stock repurchase only. For example, here I'm going to give you an example of firm A. It has a net income of $100 million, okay? Currently, let's say in 2014, the net income for this company is $100 million, right? And the current capital structure for this company basically is 60% equity and therefore is 40% debt financing. Now, the question is, what would be its distribution? Based upon this pure residual distribution model, basically says the distribution is equal to $100 million that in 2014 this company earned, minus the 60% of the total capital budget, which is $50 million. 60% of $50 million is $30 million, and therefore the distribution should be $100 million minus $30 million, which is $70 million. And this distribution could be in terms of the cash dividend and or stock repurchase. So that is basically what the distribution says. So if this 60% is coming from the equity financing, which basically is $30 million, right? That means $20 million must be coming from issuing new debt, right? If they don't issue a new debt and they stay with this capital structure, there's no possibility of maintaining the capital structure if you don't issue a new debt, right? So $50 million here, $30 million has to come from equity financing, which basically reinvestment of net income, and $20 million has to be issuing new debt. If you don't issue the new debt, then the capital structure will no longer be 60% equity and 40% debt financing, right? Now, the tricky question is, what if this company suddenly, this total capital budget is no longer $50 million, but instead you have $170 million of total capital budget? What is its distribution? So again, we're going to calculate the distribution model based upon this pure residual distribution, which is $100 million is the net income, hasn't changed yet. In 2014, we still earn $100 million, minus 60% of $170 million. So that leaves us with minus $2 million. But distribution cannot be negative. If you distribute this dividend, cash dividend in 2013 or 2012, and then in 2014 you have minus $2 million distribution, you cannot go back to the shareholder and say, hey, you know, remember I pay you a cash dividend in 2013 and 2012? Can I get back that cash? No, you cannot have a distribution that is negative. Therefore, the distribution is zero. So what does this minus $2 million represent? Minus $2 million represent that the company will have to issue new stock in the amount of $2 million. So this $170 million could be consist of the $102 million of equity financing, which means $2 million has to be issued from the new stock, and $100 million is basically reinvestment of all the net income, right? And on the rest of that, which is $68 million, must be coming from issuing new debt. So that is the idea of distribution. So does the distribution affect capital structure? Absolutely. So that's the reason why the distribution of income is important, right? Because distribution of income in terms of dividend, cash dividends, or stock repurchase will affect the firm's capital structure. And if the firm's capital structure is affected, then the weighted average cost of capital and the cost of equity and the cost of debt will be affected as well.